Hello and welcome to Camp Xtras. In the early 2000s, even years into the PS2's run, the PlayStation was still receiving games. Mostly children's games, but they were still being put out, and one of those games was Lilo and Stitch, or as it's known on PC, Lilo and Stitch Trouble in Paradise. This game was based on the latest Disney animated movie at that time. I recently played through this one, and I'd like to share my experience along with some history. All footage was captured off of a PS2, and let's go ahead and hop into this one. The concept for Lilo and Stitch dates back to 1985 when director Chris Sanders conceived the idea for a children's book. That didn't work out, but eventually after being hired at Disney, he worked on the concept and eventually got it pushed into production, building up the story of a little girl who runs into a blue criminal space alien who teach the importance of family to each other. It's set in Hawaii, and it was intended to be a celebration of the culture of the region, with some fun sci-fi elements mixed in. The movie began casting in 1998, and like many animated films, it was in production for a long time. However, the movie incorporated more watercolors, which gave it a unique style. However, that would not delay a summer 2002 release for it. There isn't much information on the development of the actual game here, but you can assume that it was in production concurrently. Websites like IGN weren't even talking about this game till a month before its release, and it seems like there wasn't much build up to it. Although Blitz Games would be developing it, which had developed a ton of licensed games at this time, but most notably in my mind is Fusion Frenzy. Disney would publish the PC version itself, but Sony would publish this game for the PlayStation. The movie would premiere on June 16th, but received a wide release on the 21st, with this game coming between those dates on June 18th in North America, and not arriving in Europe until September. Personally, I really liked this movie as a kid, although it was a DVD I watched, I never saw it in the theater. However, I kid you not, I saw Ice Age at least 4 times in the theater that same year. I have played this game before, but it wasn't until it was free with PlayStation Plus at one point, and I maybe played it for 5 seconds. Although now I have fully played through this game, and let me tell you how it went, starting with the plot.
There you are. Lilo, stay there.
This game follows the plot of the movie, sort of. This is one of those movie tie-in games that doesn't make sense in the context of itself. You move from level to level with random enemies and locations, and hardly ever do you see anything from the movie. In between, you'll get small snippets from the film itself. This has no tie-ins to the gameplay you're doing, and only happens randomly. There is nothing to follow here, and it makes it so that when characters do show up, like Bubbles, it makes no sense. He wants you to be safe and stay with him, and then he just kind of disappears. The bad guys show up out of nowhere, and it's all a bit messy. If you've seen the movie, you can follow it in your head, but if you've only played this game, this would make absolutely no sense. Perhaps it was a way to conceal the entire story from people who never saw the movie, but I find it lazy. It felt like they just made a game and then threw in some movie clips. I don't mind a light story, but it would have been nice if it was all connected together in some way. Here it comes off as confusing, though of course gameplay is the star here, and let's see if they can make up for the lack of plot. I'll put this up front before we get into it, but Lilo and Stitch is just Crash Bandicoot. So many games of this era riffed on Crash, and this one is no different. It's not inherently bad though, but it does have a lot to live up to, with that being such a great series. In this game, you move from level to level as either Lilo or Stitch. These levels are 3D, but they're laid out in a linear fashion. You move from one end to the other. You jump over stuff and attack enemies. It's simple and easy to understand, and it works for a kid's game. As a game, I think it controls and plays reasonably well. The jumps are a bit rigid, but it's not so bad that you can't get used to them. Generally, moving around and attacking all feels solid on the PlayStation controller, the layouts are straightforward, and it's an easy game to blaze through. These levels take only a few minutes to complete. You run around, hit some enemies, jump over things, and then you wrap up the level. It never feels bad to play, but it feels like it lacks a lot of substance for someone older. As a kid, I do think it's serviceable, but as an adult, it just feels okay for the most part. It does try to change things up with some 2.5D levels. These are much the same where you jump and attack, and it's all relatively easy. Although these are the best levels because they offer some variety in the direction that you go. In the main levels, it's always a straight shot, but in these, you tend to go off in different directions, and they offer a lot of paths for you. The little bit of choice makes the simplicity just a little bit better. The other levels are the famous crash levels where the enemy chases you from behind and you run away. Nothing new is here, and they go by fast. Much like the rest of the game, it's a breeze to get through and doesn't offer a lot of anything fresh. A world connects all these levels with different paths. This is interesting, but it's easily the most disappointing aspect here. A boss blocks each route, and every boss is the same. You walk up to them, they run at you, and then when they turn around, you hit their back. You can only hit them once, and you repeat this over and over. It's slow and tedious, and it feels a bit lazy when they do this over and over like this. I think this system was only here to try to add some length to this game. That is about it for gameplay from Lilo and Stitch. It's pretty average all around. It's taking on a Crash style, and even Stitch spins around like Crash, but it doesn't have the same feeling. It feels a bit cheaper, and the lack of enemies or variety in levels leads to something a bit dull. I will say that for a kid, this game is well made enough that I do think it would work well for them, but for an adult, it's just a bit too light in the gameplay department. Lilo and Stitch has a nice, light Polynesian vibe. Ukuleles stroll in, and everything has a nice, laid-back swing to it. Every level offered something unique too, and I like that it didn't repeat the same music over and over again. There are also cute little Elvis covers along the way, which I think is a nice touch to match all of the Elvis in the original movie. The sound effects are pretty good with solid variety, except for Stitch's hit noise. He does a little whine every time he gets hit, and it's grating to hear over and over. The look is nice too for a PlayStation game. Everything has a jagged polygonal look, but there's no pop-in, and everything looks clean. The colors of the movie are here with some nice pastels, and Stitch's blue really stands out. The island vibe is well captured here, and I love seeing a mix of beaches, molten lava, and lush greens. I've never been to Hawaii, but it captures the feeling you would expect from the media you've seen from the area. It matches the sound to offer something chill that's nice to settle into. It matches the cartoon well and makes for an all-around cute game, both visually and audibly. Lilo and Stitch is not necessarily a bad game. It controls well, looks solid, and the music is really nice. It is a bit of fun, but it lacks a bit of challenge and extras to make it substantial. It has a weak overworld with poor bosses, and I think the package just isn't worth going out of your way to play. If you do play it, I think you might have a fine time, but I don't recommend seeking it out. Though I feel for a kid, this game does capture enough to be entertaining for them. That's why this one fits nicely into the it's alright department. On my ranking list of PS1 games I've reviewed on the channel so far, this ranks in at number 2 of the 4. It's better than Cool Spot because I think this was consistently fun and had fewer gameplay flaws, yet V-Rally is something I think offered more gameplay and was consistently more entertaining. This game received mixed reviews according to Metacritic with a score of 54. IGN gave it a 5 out of 10, saying that it might be suitable for kids, but thought the controls were too quirky. GameSpot was much harsher, giving it a 3.8 out of 10, saying that nobody should bother with this ripoff. The US official PlayStation magazine gave it a 3.5 out of 5, saying that it looked good and was fun, but just lacked innovation. I could not find sales numbers for this game, but if we look at the user aggregate website Backlogged, it does have over 700 plays, though it has a 2.6 average. So there is a group who has played through this one. Though the reviews are not that great, there are a few who are nostalgic in the reviews. It was enough though for this one to get made available digitally on the PS3, so they at least saw that it was worth re-releasing there. As for the movie, it performed well and made a profit, making $273 million on an $80 million budget, though Ice Age beat it out as the highest grossing animated film of 2002. Even so, this is a movie that I've only seen grow over the years in popularity and love, and it very recently got a live-action remake that is making an insane amount of money. The legacy of this game does not end here as well, and there's more Lilo and Stitch games out there. So maybe we can do that sometime here on Camp Xtras. But I do think that wraps it up for today. If you enjoyed this review, please leave a like, it really helps me out in the algorithm. Subscribe to keep up with more content like this, comment below with what I should cover next, and I'll see you here next time at Camp Xtras.